everybody. I'm E.B. Tucker. I'm a director with Metalla Royalty and Streaming. I'm glad you all come in here and listen to what we have to say, because I'm going to tell you something that's very important. And what I'm going to tell you could save you a lot of money. 10 or 15 years ago, I learned how to make $1 million investing in resource stocks. And the way to do it is you start with $10 million. And after a while, you're left with $1 million. This is a very, very difficult market to invest in. You're hunting for treasure. People have been doing this for 200, 300 years. You read, Mark Twain wrote, the definition of the gold mine. It's two liars pointing at a hole in the ground that tell you there's something down there, and all we need is your money, and we're going to go find it. This is really expensive treasure hunting. I mean, everybody wants to have that big discovery, to come back and say, you'll never believe what we found in the middle of nowhere. Now, the only problem is it's very difficult to get there, and some local bandits stole it while we were gone. There's so many problems you can have. The mining business is a really difficult business. I'll go as far to say as it's a terrible business. It's expensive. Everything about it is terrible. In my years, what I figured out was every single project that I invested in, I managed money professionally, we owned all these stocks, we did hundreds and hundreds of hours of research. All these projects had something. If you read down at the bottom footnotes in the filings, and they would say 1% of all production paid to, and they would have some name. Who's this guy? Why does he get 1%? He doesn't share in the cost, he doesn't share in the development, he doesn't share in any of the headaches. He's not down there with a revolver on his hip protecting the gold mine. He just gets 1%. Million ounces, he gets 10,000 ounces. It's a royalty. This is 10, 12 years ago. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to go treasure hunting anymore in the middle of nowhere. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy royalties. And 2.5 years ago, my partner Brett and I decided to take this company public, and in that time we've bought 24 assets. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've done. I'm not going to bore you with complicated details. If you want to know about specific projects, you can come by the booth. We'll tell you anything you want to know. We'll bore you with details to the point of tears. But what I'm going to tell you about here is why we started Metalla, and what Metalla does very well, and why you should consider owning Metalla today. If you look back at Franco-Nevada, Silver Wheaton, Royal Gold, all these companies, Metalla is about right here. Those companies went like this, okay? Any kind of move in the price of gold sends royalty companies flying higher. And this is the time to consider buying a royalty company. All right, so if you look at this chart, now, the last 2 years, if you owned exploration stocks and you bought into these companies, you've probably seen something like this. Does this look familiar? You start out here, and then next thing you know, you're down here. You can't figure out why. Everything's going well. This is Metalla's stock chart. We started at 30 cents 2 years ago. We're at 81 cents today. And the price is going to go much, much higher. Look at all these things that have happened. We've closed deals average of every 4 weeks. We've bought a royalty. I expect that pace to continue, if not to go higher. What we do is we have a little different philosophy here. Royalty companies get checks monthly. We get paid monthly by the mining companies. Every single month we go to the mailbox. There's a check from ABC Mining Company for $50,000, $80,000, whatever the amount will be. We pay a dividend. We pay that dividend monthly. So we take that check, deposit it, turn around, write checks to the shareholders. Why would we do something so crazy? I mean, most of the companies here are asking you for money. We're giving you money. The reason why is because when you own a royalty company, you should share in the royalties received from the gold companies. This is your company. You helped form the company. If you buy one share of Metalla, you're part of the ownership of Metalla. You deserve to benefit when Metalla benefits. So we pay a dividend every single month. And part of what's happened is, as we've gone through the process of building royalties into our portfolio, the stock chart continues moving higher. Now, what I want to tell you today, which is really, really important to consider, this has been a hard time to own the stock. This is the early days of the company. We're 2 years old. Starting the company was really difficult. It's much easier now. We have about $12 million in revenue. We have 3 employees. Think about those numbers. That's $4 million per employee in revenue. That's the kind of numbers that Google wants, okay? We don't have hundreds and hundreds of people running around the world. We have 3 people in offices that put the company together, okay? This is a business where you can do millions of dollars in revenue per employee, so you don't have high costs to worry about. In the beginning, in the early days, it was difficult. Now it's getting much easier. So the pace that you see on this board, I expect that pace to continue. Keep going down just a little bit more. This is a chart showing Franco-Nevada, Silver Wheaton, Royal Gold, Mavericks, the other royalty companies. Metalla is the line on the top. So since inception, Metalla is the best performing royalty company stock out there. Now, that's something to think about. This has not been a good time for gold. This has been a really tough 2 years for gold. And if you can own a stock that pays you a monthly dividend in a bad gold market, I want you to just for 1 second imagine what that stock is going to do when gold takes off like we all know it's going to. This is the reason to own royalty companies, is so that you have exposure to upside in the gold price without the risk of some bandits in the middle of nowhere running off with your mine when you're not paying attention. And also with some company management, spending money, flying around the world, business class, having caviar and champagne for dinner, and they just have to come back and get some more money from you to keep going. Think about that. It's really very important. We'll go down one more. This is a mix of all the assets that we have around the world. As you can see, we have a lot of assets in Canada. We have assets in Mexico. We have assets in the decent parts of South America, the parts of South America that we don't see as being unstable. We have one asset in Africa, in Tanzania. And we have one asset in Australia. The reason why we show this map is because there's a lot of parts of the world that are very dangerous to operate in. You wouldn't leave your money in some of these parts of the world. We're not going to buy a royalty in these parts of the world. We're going to buy royalties in places where we have access to the court of law. If there happens to be a problem, we can have someone take care of it. We don't want to have to go around the world looking for this, okay? So as we move forward, we're going to have more. This map is going to fill up even more, okay? We'll go down one more to key assets. As you can see here, Pan American Silver, Agnico Eagle, Goldcorp, which will now be Newmont. These are the types of companies that we own royalties on. We don't want to own royalties on a crazy company that no one's ever heard of in the middle of nowhere that's going to go bankrupt. Pan American Silver, one of the finest silver mining companies in the world. I'd much rather own a royalty on their asset than own the stock. That's just me, because Pan American Silver deals with cost and labor issues, and these things are very normal in the mining business. Owning 2% of one of their best assets. Joaquin is one of their best assets. Look at their presentation. It's the first thing they talk about. We own a 2% royalty on that asset. They'll be mining silver there for the next 2 decades, I'll be retired, and they'll still be mining silver, and we'll still be getting 2% of everything that they mine. Think about that. That's a really interesting way to invest in gold and silver. And as the price of the metals take off, the amount that comes back to the company, 2% at $15 silver, 2% at $20 silver, 2% at $30 silver. If silver's $100, we still get 2% of all their production. You can imagine the power of the cash flow that comes as metal prices go higher. And with Metalla, we give you that money back. I can't emphasize it enough. Receiving checks in the mail, dividend checks from a company, is an experience that you have got to try for yourself. Instead of sending the company checks, receiving the checks is much better, okay? You sign the check on the back when you cash it. You can get used to that with Metalla every single month. This is what I want to leave you with here. With gold, I just did an interview with Kitco. Some of you might have seen me on TV doing Kitco interviews or read my newsletter before. I just told Kitco down here, you can see this later, with gold and silver, it's not if, it's when. It's not if there's going to be a rally, it's when there's going to be a rally. We know there's going to be a rally. We know all the reasons why there's going to be a rally. When this rally happens and we take silver and gold to prices that we haven't seen in 7 or 8 years, and then even higher, these royalties that we're buying will no longer be available. The reason why we're buying these royalties now is because this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to have a financial asset that will be irreplaceable. And by buying stock in Metalla, you get a piece of that. You get to own that and really experience it. And you're not going to get diluted by wasteful management. You're not going to get something happens, an earthquake at the mine site, or something terrible happens to the company that has one asset. You get 25, 35, 45. We're going to keep growing this company, 50, 60, 70 royalties. Your cash flow is diversified. It's in safe parts of the world. It's tied to the metal price, and it's not tied to the cost of operating the mine. So fuel prices go up, doesn't matter. 2% is 2%. 1% is 1%. It doesn't matter what happens to cost. It doesn't matter what equipment costs. It doesn't matter with safety cost. All these things are irrelevant. You're only getting 1% or 2%. And when that gold rally happens and you own 25 or more streams of income, you're not going to believe what happens to the stock. Go back and look at Franco-Nevada. Stock started at 50 cents in the late 80s. Like this. Like up and up and up and up and up through every gold rally because the assets those guys owned continued to get explored. They continued to buy more assets. They were prudent managers of the company. Silver Wheaton, same thing. 2006, they started at a quarter. It's been an amazing stock. This is the early days of the exact same story that started Silver Wheaton. If you had bought that stock at a quarter, you made enough money to retire. Royalties and streams are the best financial asset that you can possibly own in the gold market. It's great to own bullion. If gold goes from 1,200 to 1,800, you made 15%. If gold goes in the same 1,200 to 1,800, the value of royalties goes up multiple hundreds of percent. And so does the cash flow. And the dividend yield today on Metalla is 2.2%. That dividend yield will stay right there. As the dividend grows, the stock price grows with it. And now's the time to lock in exposure to these assets, and you can have it now. This is a company that you can buy and you can participate in. It's very, very unique. So the rest of the day, as you listen to presentations, consider what I've told you today. Consider the security of owning a royalty, and consider the benefit of monthly cash flow from gold and silver. Thanks, guys.